Those who have time, come sit for a few minutes, inshallah. It won't be that long today. We're finishing a surah. Um, 12 and 13. Yeah, finishing the surah. Huh? Oh. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. We are in Surah Mumtahanah, and we are right towards the end, right before Surah Hashr. So the last two verses, inshallah. One second. Okay. So in the beginning of the surah, Allah Ta'ala speaks about the woman who tested the believers, or who was tested in the sense that she wasn't a Muslim and she hid the letter from the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum. She took the letter from some Sahabi and she hid it to go and expose the Muslims. The Sahabi did it not with an evil intention, but it was wrong of him. So she became a test for that Sahabi. And then later on, Allah Ta'ala gives the example of how we should not pledge allegiance or take the allegiance of the kuffar. And after that, He gives the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And after that, He gives the example also of the women who come as muhajirat. They travel from Makkah to Medina. Then their iman should be tested. They should be asked questions. And these last two verses are about not just new Muslims, but also Muslims as well. They should also pledge allegiance. Under certain things, they need to also promise as well. So we're going to recite these two verses and then we'll continue. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها النبي إذا جاءك المؤمنات يبايعنك على ألا يشركن بالله شيئا ولا يسرقن ولا يزنين ولا يقتلن أولادهن ولا يأتين ببهتان يفترينه بين أيديهن وأرجلهن ولا يعصينك في معروف فبايعهن واستغفر لهن الله إن الله غفور رحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتولوا قوما غضب الله عليهم قد يئسوا من الآخرة كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. صدق الله العظيم. So, as we mentioned, the verse before referred to those women who accepted Islam. They came from Makkah to Medina. But this ayat shows that this was not simply for new Muslims, it was also for Muslims as well. Allah Ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhan Nabi, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. First we'll translate and then we'll go into some tafsir. إِذَا جَاءَكَ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ, when the believing women come to you, يُبَايِعْنَكَ, to pledge allegiance to you. And this is going to refer, later on we're going to speak about this happened during Fath Makkah, and some woman came to him saying basically the men pledge allegiance, why can't we pledge allegiance? And anyway, continuing, there are 6 conditions or 6 rules that they have to pledge allegiance to. Number 1, عَلَىٰ أَنْ لَا يُشْرِكْنَ بِاللَّهِ شَيْئًا. Number 1, they should not make shirk. They should not commit apostasy, commit shirk at all. Billahi shay'a, at all, in any way. Number 1. Number 2, لَا يَسْرِقْنَ. They should not steal. They should not steal. Number 3, وَلَا يَزْنِينَ. They should not commit zina. They should not commit zina. Number 4, وَلَا يَقْتُلْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ. They should not kill their children. They should not kill their children. Number 5, وَلَا يَأْتِينَ بِبُهْتَانٍ يَفْتَرِينَهُ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِنَّ وَأَرْجُلِهِنَّ. They should not commit buhtan. Buhtan, false accusations, right? Falsely accused, which they make up. يَفْتَرِينَهُ, they make up. بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِنَّ وَأَرْجُلِهِنَّ. This means in front of their hands and feet. In other words, with their hands and feet. In other words, they speak, a person speaking, falsely accusing people and going towards false accusation. In other words, acting upon false accusation. One is you speak falsely against people. One is you go and spread these false lies and rumors also. You're actively participating in false accusation. So that's how many is that? 5. Number 6, وَلَا يَعْصِينَكَ فِي مَعْرُوفٍ, and that they should not disobey you in that which is ma'ruf, known. In other words, known in Sharia. Here means known in Sharia. We're going to get to the explanation soon. If they're ready to pledge allegiance to you in regards to these 5 things, فَبَايِعْهُنَّ, then make bay'ah with them. Then pledge allegiance, allow them to pledge allegiance to you. وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُنَّ اللَّهِ, and then seek Allah's forgiveness for them. If they're ready to pledge allegiance in these 5 regards, then accept their pledge of allegiance and seek forgiveness on their behalf. إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah is most forgiving and most merciful. And finally, general hukum, general command for all believers, Going back to the beginning of the surah, in the middle of the surah. Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, O those who believe, la tatawallaw qawma. Tawallaw, tatawallaw, we did this word to be wali, to make wali. Don't befriend, don't become close, don't become intimate. Qawman, such a nation, غضب الله عليهم, Allah's anger is upon them. Don't become so close to people, intimate with such people, that Allah's anger is upon them. And قَدْ يَئِسُوا مِنَ الْآخِرَةِ, and that they have become despondent. يَئِسُوا, they become despondent of the akhirah, of the afterlife. كَمَا يَئِسَ الْكُفَّارُ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الْقُبُورِ. Just like the kuffar, they have become despondent or despaired of the people of the graves. Of the people of the graves. In other words, or we'll explain this. Just simple explanation means that when a person dies, for the kuffar, like that's it, he's dead, he's done. There's nothing left. He's finished. Useless. So in the way that they deem dead people useless, or a person dead useless, in the same way, these people who have despaired from akhirah, they're like this as well. They've despaired from akhirah just like the kuffar have despaired from the people of the qabr. In other words, these type of people who despair in akhirah, don't befriend them. Don't befriend them and don't make them, don't have intimate relationships with them. Especially, as we mentioned before, that of trust, or that of confiding all your secrets and telling them everything, or taking mashwara from them. Okay, so the first point here is one is the general tafsir, one is a little bit more specific. In Fath Makkah, when Muslims conquered Makkah, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he took this pledge of allegiance with the men. And this was on Mount Safa, and Umar radiallahu anhu was there. And so, and Umar radiallahu anhu and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, at that juncture, he was making bay'ah with the woman as well. And at that time, Hind bint Utbah, Hind, the wife of Abu Sufyan, she was also there. And of course, she did some horrendous things against Islam, against Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So she was fully covered, niqab. The narrations mention mutanaqqiba. So she was wearing niqab. In case some people think that this is a cultural thing to wear niqab, it's not in Islam. I've heard scholars say this. So this is a narration from tafsir books. She was wearing niqab. She's not the only one. Others also wore the niqab as well. And she tried to hide away also. Besides wearing niqab, she was hiding away. She didn't want people to see. She was scared that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would see her and would recognize her. And of course, she wanted forgiveness too. But she had the fear that if Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam recognized me, he may just say, "What you did with my uncle, I don't want to see your face." In other words, or I'm not going to ask, because anyone that made bay'at with him, he said he made special dua for them. Ya Allah, forgive them. They made a pledge. They made a pledge that they will hold firm to deen. And I am a witness. I bear witness that they made this pledge. So forgive them. So everyone wanted the forgiveness, of course. And if Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked forgiveness on your behalf, what more do you want? What more? That's the biggest ticket to Jannah. But now she's like, man, if he recognizes me, I'm in big trouble. So she hid away. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in general, he started making the announcement that the bay'at will be based on these 5 points, that you won't commit shirk, and so on and so on and so forth. So when he did that, she was also, of course, she was, what you call it? She was vocal. Unlike, most of the time the woman, okay, Tegan, you said something. Some women are more vocal. With those ladies, you have to explain everything. So she said, Ya Rasulullah, how come you're asking us things you didn't ask the men? How come you didn't make bayat of the men on these 5 things? How come you're asking the woman to do it? Right? For the men, you just said, make bayat upon Islam, that you'll follow Islam all the way, and on jihad, that if you need to fight, then you'll be able to go and fight. So for the ladies, you have stealing, women killing their children, and all these other things as well. So when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said stealing, that's when Hind said, Abu Sufyan is the husband, right? Abu Sufyan, Hind's husband, Abu Sufyan. She's like, Abu Sufyan is very cheap. He's cheap. He doesn't spend, and he doesn't let me spend. So I secretly take from his wealth. I don't know if you want to consider that cheap stealing, but I take from his wealth so I can spend as well. Is that jaiz? Isn't that jaiz? So Abu Sufyan, mashallah, he just said, don't worry, whatever you did from before, and don't worry about it. It's halal. In other words, I forgive you for it. That's what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he laughed, and he also recognized her as well. He said, are you Hind? She said, yes. And please forgive me for whatever has passed, and ask Allah to forgive me. She realized that, okay, he knows now who I am, that I'm here. This is a nice, beautiful incident behind it. And then when he said, and they should not commit zina. And then she said, can a free woman commit zina? How's that possible? Like I said, some women are what? They just have to say something to everything, right? Right? Even in public, right? Privately, all women speak to their husbands, right? But publicly, most women, they tend to. So you have those ladies who will speak openly. So she was one of those people. So when he said they shouldn't commit zina, so she's like, how can we commit zina? Free women, slaves, they had different status in society. And slaves committing zina is one thing. But a free woman, they have status, right? Why would they commit zina? They can get married to the best of men, right? So why would they commit zina? Basically, she was just questioning everything. And then when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, and they should not kill their children. So she says, we're going to raise them, we're going to give them our whole life, and then we're going to kill them? Why would we do something like this? Right? And then she said, رَبَّيْنَاهُنَّ صِغَارًا وَقَتَلْتُمُوهُمْ كِبَارًا. She tried to put the blame on men. That we raised them and we gave them everything. You meant when they get older, you take them to war and you kill them. We don't kill them. So she was just kind of trying to fight for women's rights, if you want to say that. Right? But we'll get to that, inshallah. So she's like, you know best what you do with them. And it was true also when she said that, because Hanzala, their child, Abu Sufyan and Hind's child, Hanzala, he was killed in the Battle of Badr. So that's when Umar radiallahu anhu, he also smiled at, this lady for every little thing. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also smiled as well. And then when finally he said that you shouldn't commit buhtan, false accusations, right? Especially against the husband. That's when she also replied, she says, of course, accusation is evil. Whatever accusation is evil, and you're not commanding us except with goodness. And finally, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, and you should not commit any sin in regards to anything in Sharia. That's when she also kind of calmed down and said, every majlis that you've had with us, then we've never intended, any type of disobedience against you. And then, when she accepted this, mashallah, then all the ladies, because she was like the spokesperson, if you will. And when she accepted it, when she relaxed and she said, yes, this is good, that's when all the women said, okay, this is, they also came to terms as well. So this was an example of and we're going to go a little bit more into detail, inshallah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he took Pledge of Allegiance from many instances, many situations as well. And these were not the only terms, other things as well. For example, he also mentioned that fakhr, pride, that he said 4 things in my ummah from the times of Jahiliyyah that they will not leave. One is pride, of their genealogy. I'm from this and this clan, this and this nation, right? And they'll also at the same time, number two is they'll blame others as well because of their genealogy, their family. You know, you're from that family, you're from this tribe, you're from this area, and this region in this country. So they look up and basically looking down upon those who are lower than them. Similarly, using the stars or arrows for good omen and these type of things. In another narration is mentioned niyaha or na'iha. When a person dies, then you have people, especially women, or they're women that are hired to cry over the dead and to make it seem like it's a very emotional thing. We don't have it here in America. I'm not sure if back home we still have this. So this is very strongly prohibited. Similarly, concerning that, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the one who smacks their cheeks, rips their collars, and screams and cries that like the crying of Jahiliyyah, they are not from us. In other words, niyaha, this mourning. In English we say what? Mourning. But mourning, we also have mourning, but mourning is what? Done in a mild way. You can cry, you can make dua, but screaming and shrieking and beating yourself, these are not part of Islam. If you go, I've been to India, I've lived there for a good year, and I've seen it amongst Muslims. When someone dies, they have crazy funeral processions, and none of this is part of Sharia. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said this would stay in the Ummah, and it has stayed in the Ummah. Okay, so this is some of the general tafsir of the verse. More specifically, some of the rulings is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took bay'at from men. He also took bay'ah from women. And bay'ah means to pledge allegiance. And what he would do would place his hand over the hands of the believers who were ready to take bay'ah. And he would make them take an oath. Take an oath upon this and this and this. And the men were general. Take an oath that you will follow Islam all the way. And you would, when the need and call arose for you to fight in the path of Allah, that you would also pledge allegiance to that. One point here, and I mentioned this right before we started, is that the last verse showed that the pledge allegiance was done for new Muslim women. New Muslims that came from Makkah, they had to pledge allegiance. This verse shows that pledging allegiance was not simply for them, it was for everyone. So it was for the normal believing woman also. So it's not just for the new Muslims. It's also mentioned that when women did take bay'ah, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam added something extra that's not in the Quran. He would say, فِيمَ اسْتَطَعْتُنَّ وَأَطَقْتُنَّ, in which you're able to do. In which you're able to do. And that the Sahabiya Umayma radiallahu anha says, this shows Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's mercy and compassion that, you know, without, we were ready to pledge allegiance no matter whatever he said. All the way. We're going to do all the way. But just this part showed that he decreased our burden, that it's such a heavy pledge. In other words, we'll try our best to uphold and upkeep these circumstances. Ma Aisha radiallahu anha said, another very beautiful, important point, is that this pledge of allegiance with women was not done by hand. It wasn't hand to hand. It wasn't hand to hand. And it comes in the narration also. One second. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he says, when we, one second. So when he was told, can we make bay'at to you? He said, and this is very important for us, brothers and elders, Inni la usafihun nisa. I don't make musafaha with women. إنما قولي لامرأة كقولي لمئة مرة لمئة امرأة. When I say something to one woman, it suffices for 100. In other words, either he'll make bay'ah, or let me say this way, bay'ah can be done with one's own wife, hand to hand. But with other women, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam simply uttered the bay'ah. He simply uttered the bay'ah. And a very important point, he said, La usafihun nisa. I don't make musafaha, I don't shake hands with women. This is very important. traditional ulama today, they try to uphold this and they say, look, we cannot shake women's hands. Irrespective of whether she's a president or prime minister or whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Other ahadith show grave warnings against those who shake hands with women. Nowadays, with modern Islam and these modern YouTube scholars, everyone's going and shaking hands with everyone else. This is not permissible. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't do it. A simple way to get out of it, wisdom, right? One of the mashayikh, what he did was, he would simply put his hand on his chest, and when the woman objected, he would say, this is my wife's trust. She will not allow me to touch anyone else. So this is a beautiful, wise, a way of wisdom, right? You might say, a person might say, in the corporate world, you have to shake the hand of the woman. Nowadays, everything's done online. Which hand you're shaking? Everything's done online now, right? So the reality is, we have to stand up to our own, ideals, right? We have to stand up to our own ideals and not compromise our ideals for anyone else, for anything else. If you lose your job, so what? Allah will give you a job somewhere else. Allah is the one that gives izzat. Allah is the one that gives rizq. So if you're going to lose your job because you didn't shake your boss, your wife, the female boss's hand, it's okay. Allah will give you something better. Anyway, this bay'ah took place in several instances. A hadith mentioned Hudaybiyah, Fath Makkah, so on, and different places. Now, a question, why was the bay'ah of men so concise and the bay'ah of women so elaborate? So there are several reasons. Maybe you can go over a few. One is that I think the biggest reason would be that in the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had him. They had him. He was easy to access. You can go to him anytime. He was always there. He was teaching them. Deen was right in front of their eyes. But for the woman, it wasn't. They're at home. Most of the time, they're at home. They're not with Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're not going out places. They're not doing things outside. So they needed elaboration. This is why later on, when bay'ah was taken by the amirs of the people, they would also give all these details, because now Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is no more among us. So it wouldn't just be on general Islam and jihad. Bay'ah afterwards was based on all these things as well. Similarly, as I told you, different things bay'ah was upon. So sometimes a khalifa can take bay'ah of the public, pledge allegiance from the public. A certain evil was happening that you have to make bay'ah that you will not commit this evil. So it wasn't restricted to only these 2-3 terms, 2 terms for men and 5 terms for women. It could be increased also. That's why it's just like today today we don't have khilafah. We don't have khilafah system, but when you do have khilafah, you pledge allegiance to the khalifa that you will abide by the rules of the country, abide by the laws of the state. Just like when you sign your citizenship paper, you're pledging allegiance. You're abiding by rules of the country. So in the same way, that's what this bay'at was. So depending on circumstances, situation, depending on your era, depending on your country, your culture, your whatever it was, different things were taken an oath upon. So in the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just general Islam, whatever Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told you, you have to make bay'ah on that. Simple. You didn't need details. And for women, these are 5 points that they're lacking in. So specifically in general Islam, specifically these 5 things. That's one reason why there was a difference. Second reason, or another reason where there may be a difference, was the fact that women generally need more specification. For men, go and turn off the light. A simple example, right? Go and turn off the light. He'll go and turn off the light, come back. For women, on the way going to turn off the light, she'll do 10 more things. Sometimes what will happen is you'll forget to turn off the light also. And maybe the sisters who are listening, they'll say, this one is another misogynist. Simple example, I think we'll all agree. When we go shopping, what happens? I'm going to go for milk. I think we can all agree, right? I'm going to go for milk. SubhanAllah, what happens? Half the store you brought back home and you forgot the milk. You forget the milk. It's just that Allah Ta'ala made the nature of men and women such, okay? A man, you tell him got the milk, he'll get the milk. Maybe he got the wrong milk, but he got the milk. And that's all he'll get. right? But a woman, she'll be like, yeah, but we needed this, we needed this, we needed this, we needed this, we needed this. But you didn't tell me all that. But you should have known. You see, there's no, this at home and that home. So a woman thinks 10 times more than a man in the sense that her mind is all over the place. This is Allah's made men and women this way, right? A woman's brain is wired to so many things. That's why when we argue, a man will say, okay, we're arguing about this bottle of water, this bottle of water. All right? And a woman will say, what about that bottle of water and that bowl of curry? And everything becomes so, because she's always thinking about it. That's the reason why, subhanAllah, she is more geared to take care of the child. Because when she takes care of the child, she'll think of everything about the child all at the same time, every time. But a man will just think, okay, I just have to change the diaper and that's it. For a woman, she'll take off the diaper. She's like, okay, there's a rash here. There's this here. He needs a shower there. I have to go prepare his food there. All of the things at the same time. That's the reason why Allah Ta'ala has made them more, they're more better in organizing the house, for example, than a man is. So in the same way, sometimes a person needs more instruction than the other. And sometimes we'll see that among our own children, difference in our own children. So a woman generally, she'll need a bit more instruction. Some things may not be clear, right, in the way it's clear to a man, right? So that may be another reason why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam elaborated to them these certain things. Another reason is very simple. These were very specific to women in the sense that in that time, as I mentioned in the first point, in that time, these things were carried out by women. These evil deeds. More than the men. Okay? And it could be that the men carried them out, not the women. And I'm going to give you an example of this. Right? It could be that the men carried them out, not the woman, but the woman got blamed. Why? If the woman stopped the men, then the men couldn't carry them out. A simple example, zina. Men more likely commit zina than women. Yes? Yes? But let me bring you back to the woman now. If the wife allows the husband relations with her whenever he needs to, how often would he commit zina? Something for our couples who are married to think about. In the beginning of marriage, mashallah, whenever you need to, bismillah. But later on in the marriage, I'm tired, and what about this, and how about that, and maybe tomorrow, and I'll see, and and then what happens? Men get what? They get frustrated, like, come on. I'm still young, So what happens? Now the person becomes frustrated thinking, if you can't, then what am I supposed to do? So that's one angle. Another angle, women who are not married and who should have gotten but didn't get, what happens? They are more prone to commit zina. And when they commit zina, they open the avenues for the men to commit zina. I'm not blaming the women only, men also. But if they never opened themselves to zina, then men would have nowhere to go to commit zina. Do we all understand that? So it's not just the woman, it's the men also. But when the women stop, then the men don't have a choice to continue. But once the women give themselves up, then the men will continue committing zina to a much greater extent. Do we all understand this? So, so another possible reason for why these guidelines were given to women and not men is because if they hold on to these guidelines, then the men could barely, commit these wrongs that the woman will force them or to not commit. In other words, if they stop, then the men don't have a choice to continue. Okay, now going specific. The first one was shirk. So we all know shirk, evils of shirk. I wasn't going to expand on this, but just yesterday or today morning, I saw a small clip. I'm not going to say who, but there was a famous movie star. The whole world knows him. Famous movie star. The whole world knows him. Everyone watches him. Indian movies, right? And he talks about Islam sometimes, right? Now, a person watches Indian movies or actors or actresses, they're Muslim, some of them, but they never say anything about Islam because they know what they're doing is wrong. Or at least they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they're saying. They say, you know what, I'm not going to speak out that which I don't know. This individual, Unfortunately, he's watched by all these Muslims, right? He's one of these actors, the great actors of, So he starts speaking about Islam. And he should not speak about Islam. He has no right to speak about Islam because your job is acting, that's your career, that's your profession. Leave that to yourself. You're not a scholar. You've never studied Islam as a scholar. You haven't attained any degree in Islam to be openly speaking about what Islam allows and doesn't allow, what is okay and what is not okay, what is halal and not haram. You don't have that right. You understand? So now he's going up there and says, yeah, well, I'm Muslim, my wife is Hindu, my children, they pray Salah also, they do the Hindu worship also, and they, my friends know that sometimes they pray Salah, sometimes they go to the mandir. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And he said, this is all okay. It's all different paths to the same objective, purpose. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It sounds nice. And Hindus make it sound very nice. We're all following different paths to the same destination. Well, guess what? You're on the wrong path. You're not getting to that destination. Right? Unfortunately, many people because he's an actor, he's well known, everyone watches his movies, right? He's taken as an example of, he's famous and he's a Muslim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This very, very important point that I want to mention is 2 points here. Number one, just because someone is famous as a Muslim doesn't have anything to do with Islam. It doesn't mean that that person represents Islam. There's a certain congresswoman. She's in Congress and she wears hijab. So what? Unfortunately, some of our politicians, they'll come to the masjid. Just because they're Muslim and they live in your community doesn't mean that they're going to represent Islam. As a matter of fact, that's the worst. You vote for them, they become this whatever leader, and boom, nothing to do with Islam. Even the kuffar stand more for Islam than them sometimes. In the Palestine issue, who's fighting for Islam and Muslims and Palestinians? So don't ever fall for this guise that, okay, this person is Muslim, he's in such and such position, he represents us, or he'll represent Islam. It doesn't happen all the time. Most of the time it doesn't happen. That's one point. Second point in regards to that person specifically is to say, to say something like this. It sounds nice. Everyone is following the path to one God, or everyone's following the path to the same objective. This is completely wrong. Why is it wrong? It's like saying, you know what, this person is studying, he's also studying, he's also studying. I love my students. They're all great students. He says 1 + 1 is 1. He says 1 + 1 is 3. He says 1 + 1 is 2. Inshallah, they're all right. That's the example of that. Since I love them all and they're all trying their best, inshallah, they all pass in my eyes. Subhanallah, wah, wah, wah. What happens? You make all of them doctors, what's going to happen? Logically, I'm not telling you Quran, Hadith, you do good, you go to Jannah, you do bad. I'm speaking logic. You love these 3 students of yours, right? And they all taking the board exam to become doctors. This one failed with a 20, this one failed with a 50, and that one passed with a 90. What are you going to say? MashaAllah, mashallah, I love these 2, they should pass also. Who are you going to use to treat your son who's dying on the deathbed? You're going to use the first 2? Now you're going to regret why you gave them degrees. Wrong is wrong, period. So just because Christians are the majority, we're not going to say it's okay to say 1 + 1 + 1 is 1. Did you guys understand that? We coexist, we have respect, but we don't agree with their opinions. It's 100% wrong. And we're not going to hold hands with them and say it's okay. You can say it's no, it's wrong. In the same way, a Hindu might be a good person, of course. We must treat them with kindness, of course. We must coexist with them, of course. Agreeing with them or saying things like it's okay, what they're saying is also a good opinion, or it's also correct, 100% wrong. 100% wrong. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He despises this so much. He says what? If a person dies, any sin he commits, Allah can forgive. Shirk, if he dies with, He will not forgive. Straight to Jahannam. So to say things like, I can raise my child, whatever they want to follow when they grow up, it's okay, everything's okay, we're all on the same path, 100% wrong. So yes, we all know shirk is wrong, but these type of shirk creeps in our family, we don't realize. They're watching these movies, you don't realize. Some of these Indian movies have what? The person is worshipping Allah, mashallah, she'll put her hijab on, she'll pray salah. At the same next juncture, as a show of what? Unity and what's the word? Coexistence. And tolerance. Now they'll go and worship in the mandir. That person is going straight to Jahannam. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. And you might, and the other point is, brothers and elders, some of us might be watching these movies and we know it's wrong, but the kids, they don't know. The kids, they don't know. You might be teaching them, but for them, that movie star I grew up with, he's my what, role model. Now, any and everything, and you can see the youngsters, any and everything the role models say, the movie stars say, the basketball players say, is everything. So when a great basketball player died, when was it, last year? Or the year before? The great basketball player died, everyone was mourning. Even the Muslims, they started saying, maybe Allah will forgive him. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We know you loved him as a basketball player, but if he was a mushrik, meaning Christian also as a mushrik, he's going straight to Jahannam. Doesn't matter how much and you should not be praising him after he dies. You should not be praising him. After a mushrik dies, you should not praise him. Maybe you could take some quotes and take some lessons from his life, and then after that you should say, Afsos, he died a kafir, mushrik, he's going straight to Jahannam. Number 2. So shirk was the first one. وَلَا يَسْرِقْنَا, stealing was the second one. Theft, and this may be specific to women, it may not be, it could be very general, but stealing, taking from the husband also can constitute. However, the ulama say because of the story of Hind, it would not. But obviously, if the woman is taking extravagant amounts, then it is not permissible. I want to point out to a small point here as well. The man's money and the woman's money should be separated. They should not be together. And I know some people are going to object to this, but Sharia, I'm telling you what Sharia tells us. A man's money is man's money, a woman's money is a woman's money. Now the famous thing, a woman says, man, your money is my money and my money is also my money. This is not true. A man's money is his money. And then that money, certain people has rights over that, he has to spend on them. But if he doesn't, he'll be the sinner, but doesn't mean that person owns that money. We understand that? We like to keep joint accounts. So this joint account is actually not exactly according to Sharia. I'm not going to say against Sharia because a person can make some type of interpretation that, look, we have a joint account, you put this percentage, I put this percentage, let's put it together so we can share, spend, whatever it may be. You can do that. But you have to be able to allocate what's whose. Now, if the husband dies, now the woman, it's all in her account, but the reality is not her money. Similarly, if the woman dies, it's all in one account. One brother went for Hajj. He was telling me, by the way, I think I told everyone I was supposed to go for Hajj, but we had a visa issue, so I couldn't go. Anyway, I've been to Hajj before. Make dua Allah Ta'ala accept it from us, inshallah. And the intention to go in the future. A brother called yesterday. He goes, I transferred all my account stuff to my wife. And, I went to or he said that, I made her thing for the account. So, and then what about my children? And I said, mashallah, it's a good thing that you're looking at all this before you go. You don't know if you're going to pass away. What you're doing is not right. I'm not saying I don't trust your wife. I don't know who your wife is. But the Sharia is wasiyah. You're supposed to write a wasiyah, a will. Islamic will. He actually asked me for the details. I didn't forget to give him. I contacted someone who should give it. He forgot to give it to me. So in the wasiyah, you have to term everything out. Who gets what? Everyone's own wealth is allocated for themselves. There's no sharing accounts. Otherwise, it becomes a fight afterwards. Now, if it's $100, $200, $500, $1,000, $2,000, in our accounts we don't keep that much. It's not a big deal. But if you're keeping a couple of 100,000 in your account, now you have to be very specific. Whose money is it, and how much belongs to whom? If anyone passes away, that amount has to be distributed. You can't say, well, we were sharing the account. What does that even mean? So this is something very important. Then all the fights start. Whose money is it? And all the fights start. So it's very important that our accounts have to be allocated. If you do share an account, I don't think that's something that it should be. Should have your own separate accounts. Or otherwise, if you do, you have to have agreement between each other that this much belongs to me, this much belongs to you. And don't worry, I'm the husband. You can spend for my money, no problem. But if in the case that I die, then this portion is mine and must be distributed accordingly according to the Sharia. Inshallah, we'll all do that. وَلَا يَقْتُلْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ. They should not kill their children. And this is something that women have not been doing in those days. But the men, if they had females, then they would end up killing the females. So this was directed to both groups. But in today's time, this hukm, this ruling would be directed more to women. Why? Abortion. Abortion is not halal at all. It's not permissible, right? Similarly, uh, abortion also, in fear of I won't be able to raise this child, you know, or I don't have the husband to take care of him, and so on and so forth. These are not permissible reasons for abortion. So killing your own children today will refer much more to women than men. I skipped one. Zina. Wala yaznina. So shirk is number one. Stealing is number two. Zina is number three. So zina, we already mentioned, we spoke about it. That because women open themselves the avenue to zina, then men are more prone to commit zina. But again, it's not only their fault, it's both fault. It's fault of both parties. The other point for zina, okay, so number three was zina. Number four is killing your children. Number five, there's six of them. I apologize. There's six. Number five is they should not commit buhtan, false accusations. This is also greatly aimed towards women. Both sides, men and women, accuse, but women accuse more. Normally in the discussions and the gossip, oh, did you know so and so did this, so and so did this, so and so did this. You know, it's the gossip, and then if something happens, oh, so and so is the reason why this happened, accusation, or you did this. So this is generally, this is something that's more closely related to our women folk, and buhtan yaftarinahu, something that they make up bayna aydihinna wa arjulihinna. In other words, actively. Some people will speak against others, accuse others, and some people will actively take a role. Go around and tell people and spread the word and so on and so forth. Right? And final one, number 6. وَلَا يَعْصِينَكَ فِي مَعْرُوفٍ. They should not disobey you in that which is known in Sharia to be disobedience. This is in general, I think it's general for men and women. What's a very important point here is what is known in Sharia is very important. Ma'ruf. Sometimes they should not disobey you in what is known in Sharia means basically what Sharia terms as halal is halal. What Sharia terms as haram is haram. Not what you think and what you understand. A lot of times, or sometimes what we do is, in my opinion, this is not right. Now in deen, you have to consider that first. After that, in your culture, if something is incorrect, you can say it's incorrect, you shouldn't do it. But don't term it as halal and haram. Don't term it as permissible and impermissible. That is only termed by Sharia, what is halal and haram. So, and some things, your custom, your culture will think there's nothing wrong with this. Example, in American culture and custom, a boyfriend, girlfriend, there's nothing wrong with it. What's wrong with it, right? Morally, there's nothing wrong, right? Islamically, 100% wrong. So at that juncture, when the culture and custom is telling you something is right, Sharia is telling you it's wrong, bas. You give Sharia precedence. 20 years ago, we didn't have this problem. Today, we have this problem. All this whole gay thing. Now there's that month also. It's gay pride and all these things. So the custom and culture today will tell you there's nothing wrong with it. And brothers and elders, this is a serious thing. We need to sit down with our children. We need to educate them. We need to have programs in the masjid because that's the norm that's happening. It's already happened. It's going around now where our own Muslims are being susceptible and accepting it. That it's okay. It's okay. It's a person's own choice. You know what's going to happen? Your children are saying it's okay. It's a person's own choice. Your grandchildren will say it's my choice. Right? So we need to speak against it openly. We speak against it openly. So, ma'ruf, they should not disobey you in that which is known in Sharia. In other words, what does Sharia consider halal and haram? We must learn these things. And once they follow these 6 steps, فَبَيْعْهُنَّ, then make bay'ah to them, وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُنَّ اللَّهِ, and then seek forgiveness for them on your behalf. إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And finally, the last verse goes back to the rest of the surah, that, O believers, don't make friends, don't become intimate with those people Allah is angry with, who have nothing to do with the akhirah. That's the key point. They have nothing to do with akhirah. They don't care about the akhirah. Most people live for dunya. Because for them, once you die, you're dead. That's it. There's nothing left. For the Muslim, it's not like that. Akhirah is everything. Your life is what? You see this wire here? Your life is about this part here. One person said it beautifully, right? He said that your life is this little bit here. And your akhirah is this line going in and just keeps going. This way, it just keeps going. Your akhirah is forever. And your dunya is this much. Why are you going crazy for dunya? Kitne dunya kamaoge? How much dunya are you going to get? You're living for this, you're dying for this, you're working for this, you're double job for this, you're everything, you're just striving for all this. Think about it. In our 24 days, 24 hours of a day, how much hours are we making effort for this whole line that comes after? 90% of our effort becomes, how am I going to live this life here? How am I going to earn that much money to live my life right here? To not buy a nice house here, to buy a nice car here, to get a beautiful wife here, to have children here, to raise them as well, to take them and give them a good education, and get them a house, get them cars, get them married. And then finally, when there's nothing left, then they say, this 1/100th of my life, if I'm lucky, I'll dedicate to preparing for the rest of my whole life. Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. Allah Ta'ala kind of forced us to say, at least give 1 hour of the 24 hours. 5 times salah is about 1 hour. If we're, mashallah, with full khushu and khudu and slowly, right? Otherwise, some people, mashallah, 10 minutes. All 5 times salah will be in 10 minutes. You just come for fard and pray. Or at home, you get up fajr, 2 rakat, 1 minute. Allah Ta'ala kind of tried to force us to say, at least give what? Half an hour out of the 24 hours of the day. But the objective is not that. The objective is bring your whole life upon deen. And it's not hard. If you live by the sunnah, if you sleep, go to sleep with wudu. Simple example. Go to sleep with wudu. Read your azkar before sleeping. Surah Mulk, Ayatul Kursi, the 4 Quls, Surah Waqiyah, Surah Yasin in the daytime. If you do these few things, your whole day becomes ibadah. Or just the nighttime du'as takes about 20 minutes. If you're really dedicated, about 40 minutes of du'as before you go to sleep. Wallahi, you go to sleep at 11 o'clock, you wake up 5 o'clock. That's 6 hours ibadah. You can easily say 6 out of my 24 hours, alhamdulillah, 6 over 24, right? 1/4 of my life was in ibadah. Easily you can say. Simple. It's not that you have to worship all day and night. Now, Dhul Hijjah days have started, right? So right now is like Laylatul Qadr. MashaAllah, everyone here started what? Your night of Laylatul Qadr with Tafseer. Alhamdulillah, say Alhamdulillah. Now, easy way out, make your Isha with Jama'at, make your Fajr with Jama'at. The whole night will become worship. Simple, easy way. Do a little bit of worship after Isha. Ulama say, a few rakat, whatever salah you pray after Isha, it's automatically Qiyamul Layl. It's automatically Tahajjud. It'll be counting as Tahajjud as well. May Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq, inshallah, and that we make akhirah our objective. Don't be like the kuffar or befriend the kuffar whose objective is only dunya. They have nothing to do with the akhirah. And I think that's all, inshallah. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallahumma bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Ji, inshallah. We can have some more